Welcome to A to Z Tales. Some people grow up in difficult places. They face problems every day: crime, noise, broken homes, and a lack of chances. It is easy to think, this is why I cannot succeed. But sometimes, we meet someone who grew up in the same world and still walked a different path. Their life shows us a powerful truth. Your start in life shapes you, but it does not decide your finish. Every action, every decision, and every attitude builds the person you become. If this is your first time on our channel, please subscribe, like, and share this video for more English stories. Darren was 17 years old and lived in a neighborhood that people on the news called one of the toughest parts of the city. The buildings were gray and old. Many windows were broken or covered with boards. At night, sirens were common, and during the day, angry voices, loud music, and shouting filled the streets. Darren knew every cracked pavement, every locked shop, and every corner where people stood and watched strangers with careful eyes. He lived with his mother and younger sister in a small apartment on the 4th floor of a tall building. The elevator did not work, so they always used the stairs. Sometimes the lights went out in the hallway, and they had to walk in darkness. His mother worked long hours at a laundry shop and came home tired. His father left when Darren was 10, and they had not heard from him for years. School did not feel like a real option to Darren. He still went, mostly because his mother asked him to, but he sat in the back, quiet, sometimes angry, sometimes sleepy. Many students in his class shared the same story. Broken families, trouble with money, fear of the streets, and few dreams beyond getting through the week. Darren often thought, people like us don't make it far. The world is not for us. He had friends who skipped school every week. Some sold cheap goods on the street, some joined local gangs to feel strong and safe. Others simply wandered around, waiting for something, even if they did not know what it was. Darren did not join a gang, but he did not stay away from them either. If trouble came, he wanted people to think he was not weak. One afternoon, he came home early from school. He failed another test. His teacher told him kindly, "You are smart, but you do not try." Darren only heard, "You failed again." At home, his mother asked how school was, and he shrugged. Inside, he felt angry at everything and everyone. He blamed the school, the noise, the building, his father, the other kids, anything except himself. When Darren walked outside in the evening, he saw kids running across the road, cars honking, and older boys arguing under a streetlight. A police car passed slowly. Darren told himself, how can I become anything in a place like this? It's not my fault if I fail. I was born into the wrong life. That night, he met a few friends on a corner near the closed grocery store. They talked about a boy they knew who stole a motorcycle and crashed it. Nobody was surprised. One friend said, "This is just how it is for us." Darren nodded. He believed it too. In his mind, he had no real choices. He was shaped by his neighborhood, and that was the end. The next morning, as Darren walked slowly to school, he saw a small community center near the park. Usually, he ignored it. But this time, there was a poster outside with the words, "Career Talk, Free Entry." A picture of a man in a suit stood beside the text. Darren made a face. He was sure the talk would be boring. Still, something inside him made him stop and read more. The poster said a former resident of the same neighborhood would speak about his journey. Darren thought it was probably a lie or a trick to make people feel hopeful for no reason. He walked away, but during lunch break at school, he kept thinking about it. The neighborhood rarely produced successful people. Who could this guy be? A few days later, Darren returned to the community center when his school ended early. He was not planning to enter. He just looked inside through the glass door. A few chairs were placed in rows, and some younger kids sat with notebooks. Volunteers arranged water and snacks. Darren stood outside, half hidden behind the doorframe. When the talk started, an older man wearing glasses walked to the front. He looked calm and gentle. His hair had gray at the sides. A volunteer introduced him, saying, "Please welcome Professor Lucas Bryant." Darren froze when he heard the name. Lucas was the kid who used to live 2 buildings away from him many years ago. Darren remembered Lucas because they used to play football as small children in the dirty courtyard. They both ran across the same broken steps, heard the same sirens at night, and saw the same fights in the hallways. But Lucas moved away when he was 12 because his aunt took him to another part of the city. Darren had no idea what happened after that. Now, Lucas was a professor? That seemed impossible to Darren. He stepped inside quietly and stood at the back. Lucas began sharing his story. He talked about living in a small apartment with his parents and brother. He talked about the noise at night, the fear of walking alone, the pressure to act tough, and the sadness of seeing friends fall into trouble. Lucas explained how when he was young, he often felt angry and hopeless too. But one day he met a teacher who told him that a difficult place might shape a person, but it did not have to trap them. The teacher said, "Your neighborhood is part of your story, not your whole story." Those words stayed in Lucas's mind. Lucas described how he started reading more books, asking more questions, and trying harder at school. He did not transform in one night. He made many mistakes. Sometimes he failed tests or got into small fights. But he kept making small changes, studying for an extra hour, staying away from the wrong group, listening to advice, and believing that his choices mattered. Darren listened with growing surprise. He kept waiting for Lucas to say he got lucky, or someone gave him money, or he escaped the neighborhood quickly. But Lucas said something different. "I realized I could not change the world around me overnight, but I could change how I acted inside it. And every small action built my future step by step." He went to high school, then to college. He struggled with money, so he worked in a cafe. He studied late at night in a shared room. He faced people who thought he was not good enough, but he continued. Slowly, he built knowledge, discipline, and new habits. Today, he taught history at a respected university and worked on community programs in his free time. After the talk, some children asked questions. A boy said, "What if everything is against you?" Lucas answered, "Everything might stand in your way, but not everything can control your mind. You can still choose how you react, what you learn, and what you aim for." Darren felt something move inside him. It was not a sudden burst of joy or a strong decision. It was a quiet voice that whispered, "Maybe I do have some power." But another part of him argued, "No, your life is worse than his. You have no time, no help, and no chance." He left the community center without speaking to anyone. That night, he lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. His sister played quietly with her toys. His mother cooked rice and lentils in the kitchen. Darren thought about Lucas walking the same streets long ago. He imagined Lucas as a boy, standing in the same stairwell, hearing the same fights, smelling the same trash outside. The next morning, Darren did not skip his classes. He still felt tired, but he sat closer to the front. When the teacher asked a question in English class, Darren hesitated. then spoke a short answer. His voice was low, but the teacher smiled and said, "Good." Darren was surprised. He expected laughter from other students, but no one laughed. Have you ever blamed your situation for something and then later realized you had more power than you thought? Think about it. You can share your thoughts if you want. Over the next few weeks, Darren did not turn into a perfect student, but he started doing small things differently. Instead of throwing his tests away, he looked at his mistakes. Instead of walking in the streets all evening, he spent some time helping his sister with her homework. He also returned to the community center twice to hear other speakers. One time he stayed after a talk and helped stack chairs. A volunteer named Rosa thanked him and said, "We need young people like you." Darren almost laughed. He never heard words like that about himself. Rosa asked what he wanted to do after school. Darren shrugged and said he did not know. She told him, "Not knowing is okay, but staying still forever is not." Darren began reading short books from the community center library. They were not fancy books. Some were simple stories about people who changed their lives with small steps. He liked reading at night when the neighborhood grew a little quieter. His sister sometimes sat next to him and turned the pages with her small hand. One Saturday, Lucas visited the center again. Darren gathered the courage to walk up to him. He said, "We used to play here when we were kids." Lucas looked at him closely, then smiled with recognition. "Darren, from Building 46? I remember you," he said warmly. They sat on a bench outside. Lucas asked about his life and listened without judging. Darren said he always thought the neighborhood made success impossible. Lucas nodded and said, "Circumstances are powerful, yes. They shape our fears, our habits, and our first thoughts. But they don't write every page. You write the next page with your choices." That idea stayed in Darren's mind. You write the next page. He thought about all the times he blamed the walls around him. The walls were real, but he realized he had stopped looking for doors or windows. He had accepted the walls as the whole world. At school, Darren asked a math teacher for help one afternoon. The teacher blinked with surprise but agreed gladly. Darren did not understand everything right away, but he did not walk out like he used to. He stayed, asked questions, and tried again at home. That week, he passed a small quiz. It was not a big exam, but it was the first pass he had seen in months. Outside, his friends noticed a difference. Some teased him, saying he was becoming a schoolboy. Darren smiled but did not stop studying. He still met them sometimes, but he said no when they wanted to do reckless things. A few got angry. Others just shrugged and moved on. His mother began to notice changes, too. He started washing dishes without being asked. He walked his sister to school on days when his mother left early. He still got frustrated, but he shouted less. His mother once said softly, "You are growing up, Darren." He looked down, unsure how to feel. Lucas continued to visit the center once a month. He and Rosa created a small study group. Darren joined. They talked about goals. Nothing huge like becoming a rich businessman tomorrow, but small, real things. Finishing exams, learning a skill, applying for training programs. Each time Darren shared a goal, Lucas said, "Good. Now take one step toward it today." One evening, Darren sat by his window and watched the streetlights flicker. He remembered how angry he used to feel every night. Now he still saw the broken things, trash in the alley, shouting neighbors, graffiti on the walls. But he also saw something else. the possibility that he did not have to stay the same. His environment still shaped him, but it did not decide him. Months passed. Darren finished his school year. He did not become top of his class, but he passed most subjects. For the first time, he felt proud of his effort. Rosa helped him apply for a part-time internship at a local repair shop. The owner, Mr. Costas, liked Darren's curiosity and patience with small machines. At the repair shop, Darren learned how to fix fans, radios, and small tools. He enjoyed using his hands and his mind together. He asked questions, made mistakes, and tried again. Mr. Costas said, "You learn fast when you let yourself try." Some nights, Darren remembered his old thoughts. "I can't be more. I'm stuck." But those thoughts grew weaker. They visited like old ghosts, but they could not control him. He still faced noise, money problems, and dangerous streets, but now he reacted differently. He chose different steps. 1 year later, Darren stood outside the same community center where he had first watched from the shadows. Lucas invited him to speak briefly to a new group of kids. Darren felt nervous. He did not think he was a success story yet. But Lucas told him, "You are a story in progress, and that is powerful too." Darren spoke slowly and honestly. He said, "I used to think I had no choice because of where I live. I believed failure was automatic here. But then I met someone who showed me that the neighborhood is not my final answer. It's only my beginning. Every decision I make is like a small brick in the person I build." The children listened. Some looked at him with wide eyes. One boy asked, "Is it hard?" Darren nodded. "Yes," he said. "It is hard. But staying the same is also hard. And only one of those options gives you a future you can choose." After the talk, Darren walked home under the same streetlights that once felt like prison guards. Now he saw them as signals that the night was not complete darkness. They did not fix everything, but they gave light to each step he chose to take. He knew life would not suddenly become simple. There would be setbacks, wrong turns, and days when old anger returned. But he understood something important. Circumstances shape you, but they do not define you. Your choices, your acts, and your attitude write the story of who you become, page by page, step by step. Now it's your turn. Think about one small action you can take today that builds the person you want to become. It does not have to be big. It just has to be yours. Write in the comments or tell someone, "One thing I can do today to shape my future is..." Keep reading, keep learning, and keep choosing your next step. Your story is not finished yet.